Hello, hello, and welcome. Good morning or afternoon, wherever you may be. We'll give you a few minutes or just a moment to get logged in and situated. We're so excited to have you with us today. All right, we will get started. So, hello. My name is Matthew DeGeter, and I am the Senior Vice President of Strategic Enterprises at the American Society of Interior Designers. It is my pleasure to welcome you to today's ASID Member Benefit Spotlight. Protect your business with the ASID Professional Liability Insurance Program. This webinar is for current and individual members and organizational partners, as well as those who are interested in joining ASID. Today's webinar will feature the ASID Professional Liability Insurance Program available through Hub International. Hub has tailored the nation's only professional liability insurance program specifically and exclusively for ASID members, with options for those providing interior design or architecture and engineering professional services. So in the next 20 minutes, we will cover the following. We're going to explore a member benefit. We're going to show you how to sign up, and we're going to get your questions answered. So pretty simple, pretty straightforward. As attendees, your audio is muted and your chat is disabled. However, please use the Q&A button on your toolbar in Zoom to submit your questions to us and that we will get to during our dedicated Q&A time. So I will be your moderator for today's webinar, and we are joined by Jeremy Welsh, who is Executive Vice President for Commercial Lines at Hub International. Hub International is our Design Business by ASID program partner for the Member Professional Liability Insurance and Business Owners Policy Program. We will also be joined by Natalie Biles, who is owner and lead designer at Shine Interior Design Studio. Shine is enrolled in the Professional Liability Insurance Program, and Natalie is the 2026 chair of the ASID Business Management Committee. So first, we're going to hear from Jeremy to learn about the program. Jeremy, we're thrilled to have you today. We're really curious to learn more about the business owner's policy and the professional liability insurance program too. There you are, Jeremy. Welcome, welcome.
Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it. I'm glad to be here. And happy to be able to talk about the program and answer any questions as we kind of move forward. So,
Perfect. I'll let you take over from here.
great. So, we've been working with ASID for almost, I think, 15 years at this point, and the whole point of us creating this product and this exclusive option for the members of ASID was really because what we found was a lot of designers that we were talking to through ASID didn't know anything about insurance or purchased insurance that they thought was covering them, but in reality, they experienced claims that weren't covered or they were paying a lot more money than they really should have. So, what we've put together for ASID members only is an exclusive program that covers really everything that you would need from an insurance standpoint and a very tailored, specific professional liability policy for interior design and architects and engineers, which we'll touch on. So, high level, we have a business owner's policy, which is kind of the standard policy that you're going to need in place, specifically if you're doing any commercial work, where people are going to want to see a certificate of insurance. And what this covers you for is bodily injury and property damage to a third party. So, something you do within your design services creates some sort of bodily injury to a third party, someone gets hurt because of your design, or there's some sort of property damage because, a chandelier fell or something like that happened because it wasn't installed correctly. This is a very basic policy that really any business should have because it's covering you for those types of risks. The reason that we offer this is it's really tied in with the professional liability, which is the flagship product. But this policy, because we're trying to consolidate under one carrier, so it eliminates gaps when you're looking at both policies that you have. It also gives you the opportunity to bundle it and provides us, we built in an additional discount if you buy both of these policies through our program. So it just is covering you for everything that you could potentially get brought into from a lawsuit. But the bigger risk for designers is the professional liability. So Matt, if you want to move forward. The professional liability, because you're hiring, or you're not hiring, but there's contractors or other people that are, providing product or installing or building out and doing all of the actual construction work, they have a bigger liability risk. Where your risk is the professional liability. So what the professional liability covers you for are any errors that you make, any omissions that you make. It could be, a mismeasurement. It could be ordering the wrong product. It could be ordering a product that wasn't intended for the use of the space, and there was a claim that was associated with that. And really anything where your client could come back and bring a lawsuit against you alleging that you didn't do what you were supposed to do. So as a professional designer, that's where your risk is because they're hiring you as an expert. Think of it like malpractice, right? So any attorney, any kind, CPA, they all have professional liability because they're giving advice to someone and someone's paying money to get that specific advice. So if your client is unhappy with the design, there's change orders that aren't reflected, there's, a loss of memory as to why they actually asked for this, right? And they think that they don't like the end result. That's a potential claim against you. They really have, the upper hand when it comes to bringing suits against designers. So, and these get very expensive. So we've seen some very large claims around this, especially in commercial projects, but also in residential projects. Something new that we added last year is we also have coverage for architects and engineers. So if you are engaged in A&E work, in architecture work, we have the same policy, but it's broader in scope. So it's covering you for a lot more than what the specific interior design policy does. So what we found, and the reason why we created this program, is so many designers think they have professional liability. What they have is a general liability, or they have professional liability that's specific to interior decorating, or they have a full architects and engineers policy and they're paying way too much. So what we've done is built in specific discounts for ASID, and then we've also built in really a tailored product that is specific to your design work or your architecture work. So it's very broad in scope. We've added a lot of additional coverages that are important to designers, knowing designers and what those claims look like. And we've built in substantial discounts to be often much, much less expensive than what you're purchasing if you're doing an apples to apples comparison. So it's a great benefit. It's a huge exposure that a lot of designers have that they just don't realize that that's an exposure that exists. Matt, are you gonna next slide? So how do you get a quote? We've tried to simplify this as easy as possible. Insurance isn't always the easiest, but if you go right to the ASID website, there's a intake form with some very basic information, contact info, program of interest, right? Which policy you're looking to get a quote for, the type of firm you are, residential, commercial, architecture, and then whatever your revenue is. So we do need to understand what your revenue is because that is what these policies are rated on, kind of speaks to how much volume and work that you do. Any questions? There's a 1-800 number. You can call us at any time. And we have typically a 24 to 48 hour turnaround where you're going to hear back from somebody to talk through kind of the options that are available to you. One of the benefits too of this is that we'll do a comparison. So if you already have a policy, you can send it to us and we'll show you what the differences are and why, our policy is much broader in scope and actually covering you better than likely what you have currently.
Thank you very much for that, Jeremy. And it sounds like I'm in full screen and the slides are in tiny screen for everybody. So maybe to try that again, we're going to do a quick stop share and we'll try again. And maybe that will help us all out real quick too. So let's try that one more time, everybody. And we will go for this share. Maybe that will be a little bit easier for you and hopefully a little bit better. So you can see that, get a quote, and then I am not so big. As we do that, next up, Jeremy, we appreciate that review. Coverage types and what you need as a business owner versus professional liability. That's important because the work you're doing matters. And so you need to know what your coverage is and make sure you are covered for what you are doing. And that is the big question we always get with getting your quote is like, do I need my prior year revenue? Yes, absolutely. And that's even if you are new in business and you're just starting out, you need to be able to estimate that though too.
Yeah,
But
and Matt,
oh,
if I could just point to something really quick, it doesn't need to be an exact number. So an estimate of what you did. And also we have a kind of entry level program as well. So if you're just starting out and you're gauging, maybe I'll do 20,000 in revenue in a year, that's all the data, that's all the information that we need, and we can still price out the program for you.
there you go. That's the important piece because, you know, even as you are starting out, you definitely need this coverage to help you out and make sure that you have that and, you know, have that peace of mind, especially while you're working with clients and, you know, help you cover what you don't know. And to help us give a little bit more context into that and also some personal experience, let's welcome Natalie Biles. She is an interior design business owner who actually switched pretty recently to the ASID program just a few months ago. Also, keep your questions coming in as well. But we're going to have ourselves a little bit of a conversation. So as I stop the screen share for the three of us, there we go. First big question here for you, Natalie, is tell us about yourself. Tell us about your firm. Tell us about your practice, where you're located, all of that stuff.
Awesome. My name's Natalie. I'm co-owner of Shine Interior Design Studio. We are located in the Central Arkansas area and do work across our region, across our state. We're a small firm, small for some places, big for others. We have a staff of six, plus a contracted virtual assistant. And we do both residential and commercial work. So we have projects that range anywhere from new construction residential remodels to restaurants, office, medical space. One often begets the other with our clients. And we've been in business since 2019. So we've done some of those first steps, and then we've done some of those reevaluating steps as well.
Thank you so much for that, Natalie. So, all right, leading your business takes a lot of it, you carry a lot of risk. And like that's kind of like the known thing as a business owner. You're managing a lot with design projects. You got the risks ranging from miscommunication, scope, product issues. Like a lot that can go wrong in a project. A lot of those moments. But at one point, you probably have that aha moment of when risk feels really real. And I think it hits every business owner at a different moment in time. So, Natalie, when was that moment for you and for your studio?
So when we first started out, it was me and our co-owner Stacy, and Stacy and I were both working from our homes. We did not have a central office or a studio, and we had two small projects. And we were ordering furniture, and we were shipping furniture to both of our houses. And one day I came home, and the boxes were piled up on my porch all the way to the ceiling, and we had all of this stuff. And so we had that going. And then paralleling that, we were doing specifications and issuing our first commercial drawing set. And there's a big weight on that. And I think both of those paralleling each other, we were like, this is a whole lot that we're responsible for. And we didn't want things to happen to the furniture that we were in charge of. And then we also didn't want, it's very scary that first time you issue your drawing set that you are responsible for. And so that was for us was when we worked on getting our first errors and omissions and business owners policy in place.
That makes a big difference, especially with that. And when you were issuing for a commercial space, was it also required to have that errors and emissions policy for you too, like in submitting your drawings?
Nobody had required it of us at that point, but we knew working from other firms and in our experience that that could be requested at any time. Same with certificates of insurance, just to make sure that you are covered. So while it didn't happen on that particular project, it wasn't long thereafter that we had to have our certificates to work on projects or to apply.
Yep. Makes a big difference when you're thinking about that, and especially as you're expanding your business. And you might be in that moment and going, and then you realize, wait, and there's kind of like that aha, I'm like, am I covered for the project I'm actually like committing to.
Yeah.
Like, am I there? Jeremy,
Yeah.
you're smiling on that one for us. I feel like you've seen that in the past.
Well, and
Yeah.
absolutely, as your business grows and you start taking on something that you don't necessarily think, you hope that you're going to have projects that have larger budgets, but then walking down that path, you start having your first $500,000. You have your first one that crosses the $1 million mark, and that starts to become very, very real. Or you're ordering, close to $1 million of furniture. That was very sobering for us, and going, we need to assess where we're at. So it's not that very first startup. If you've been in business for a long time, you probably need to take a look at where you're at as well.
Oh, so okay, question
Did I
both.
skip? I skipped ahead.
No, you're perfect. That's exactly it though. Like, so what was that moment? Was it like that total dollar amount that made you have that aha, we need to look at this again situation?
Well, business owners' reality is I had procrastinated and put that off on our list, and had just let our business, I'd let all of our policies just auto renew for several years. And I'd had it on my list, and at Gather, I stepped into the presentation that you and Jeremy gave, and I was like, okay, our policy renews this week. And he gave me his card. I reached out as soon as we were back home from Atlanta, and we started the process of assessing, because we were very undercovered, because it wasn't just the two of us anymore. We had a staff, much larger revenue, and a whole lot more work that we were doing.
That's major. And so, Jeremy, over like, what are the key things that somebody should be looking at in their policy? Because you got to pay attention to your renewal time, like, because you get locked in if you hit your
Mm-hmm.
pass your renewal and you let it just auto renew. But if you're starting to compare, what are the things that an owner should be looking at?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, we see it so often. So, I mean, really what we see mostly is exactly what Natalie was going through, right? Which is, oh, I have insurance, right? I bought insurance. I'm okay. I'm just going to let this renew every year. But the issue is that you don't know if that insurance is going to cover you until you have a scenario, some sort of claim or allegation or an upset client that brings suit against you. And that is the worst time to realize that you've been spending money
Yeah.
on a policy that is not actually going to cover you, right? What we typically need to see is a copy of your policy. And what we generally see is most agents, it could be a friend of your family, somebody you just went to and got a quote. They know nothing about interior design and they don't
Very
understand
true.
the business at all. So they have no idea what exposures you face and what your potential risk is. So oftentimes, Matt, we see, as I mentioned earlier, an interior decorator policy, which is basically
Mhm.
like, colors and pillows, right? I mean, it's very limited in scope. It's not going to cover you for the actual design work that you do. So people are paying for a premium and not getting covered. The other side of that is people are buying architects and engineers policies that are way more coverage than they need and highly priced. So the main things are making sure that the policy you're buying is specific to interior design and that it outlines those types of potential claims. But then we've done a job of building in a lot of additional coverages. So it extends to independent contractors, spouses. All of your defense costs are covered outside of the limit. We've built in some cyber coverage. We've built in a lot of necessary. There's some light architectural built in, right? So as long as you're not moving load-bearing walls, that would extend coverage. If you are doing more architecture, then we have an architecture and engineers policy. But it's very broad in scope. So essentially, any potential claim that arises is going to be covered under our policy instead of what we typically see is most policies are excluding a lot of language or are specific to decorators or really not something that's specific to your business.
And that's worth
And one
noting too, Jeremy, just to give a shout out because last year we added the architects and engineering policy
Mhm.
too. So that's a big piece there. Like, so a few of you may be going, I didn't know ASID had an option for A and E, and it's now we do. So if you are expanding your business into that service and that scope, and you're looking at your options, like price compare with this one and see what we can Hub is able to cover for you there too. Sorry, Natalie, I jumped in. What did you have to add?
No, I was thinking in terms of how much you're covering and what you're covering. One thing that was very helpful that we walked through first, Hub reviewed our policy that we had in place and asked particulars in what has changed for us and walked me through our storage options. We have three storage buildings that we house things in. We have a receiver and we have the furniture and the things that are stored there. And so they walked me through making sure that we were covered for all locations, wherever we were, wherever our staff was. And that was really important and really changed. And so ultimately, we walked away with way more coverage than what we had. And actually, our price was ever so slightly lower than what we were paying for the lower amount of stuff. And so it just felt really, it gave me a lot of confidence to know that we had reviewed everything, reviewed the changes, and they were helpful at prompting and going, are we getting everything? Are we getting all of your locations, wherever things might be? And that was very, very helpful.
That comparison is super important, and Jeremy and his team are willing to jump in and look at your policy and walk you through that because you don't know what you don't know in
Right.
situations like this. And that's really why ASID brings in these partners, and we have these program partners through Design Business by ASID because we've done the vetting for you. And we're really confident in our program partners and the relationships that we've built with them and the products and services that they're able to provide to you as well. So hopefully that gives you a little peace of mind and also, you know, saves you some time in that research and process and helps you, get back to managing and working on those projects and working with those clients too. So we've got about 5 minutes left, and I see we've got a few questions from the audience. So I'm going to pivot to those. The first one is from Lynn asking, does the policy cover digital design services?
Yeah, so it depends on what the allegation is or what the claim is. But if you were to put out a digital design that was not accurate and you had to redo it and the client came back to bring suit against you because, the end result was not what was intended, then yes, it would.
There you go. Thank you for that question, Lynn. I've also got a question from Anne. This is an interesting one. So their firm does provide architecture as well as interior design services. However, if they move a load-bearing wall or foundation, they work with engineers and have the client hire the engineer. So would their interiors policy cover them, or do they need the architecture and engineering
If
policy?
yeah, if you have architects on staff and you're stamping any projects, then you really need the broader architects and engineers policy. And that's going to extend to the A&E exposure, but also cover you for all your design work too. So it is typically a little bit more expensive because it's a much broader policy. But if you do have architects on staff, it's your best option because we don't want to leave any guesswork where the carrier may come back and say architecture is excluded, right? We want to make sure that you have the right coverage for all of your employees and all your operations.
Sounds like an opportunity for a quick conversation and consult on that one, Jeremy. And I think that's a great opportunity for a follow-up from here. And then we've got another question from Jamie, and also keep the questions coming. We've got a few minutes left, and we're able to take a few more. What's the difference between the business owner's advantage and professional liability?
So the business owners, again, is very basic. Like you would have the same policy essentially as, a flower shop, right? The general liability and property. It's really not where your exposure is, but it's often what's required in a certificate. Because you're not doing the physical work, right? You're putting together the designs. So the professional liability is covering all of your professional services and any financial loss to a third party. And that could be a contractual dispute. It could be an unhappy client. It could be a misorder. It could be mismeasurements. We've had some big claims where people relocated and things weren't measured correctly and their furniture didn't fit. And that was a very large claim. Something to note, Matt, that we didn't touch on just briefly is that as soon as you put the professional liability policy in place, you're covered retroactively for all the work that you've done for as long as you've had that policy in force. So if you're getting into the business and this is new for you, buy a policy as quickly as you can. We have options to keep really low limits and really low premiums so that at least you have that coverage. But then as your business grows, similar to what Natalie experienced, right? As you expand and grow, all of the work you've done maybe it's 10 years later and now you get a claim from a job you did 8 years ago, that's going to be covered on your policy from 8 years ago, as long as you've had continuous coverage. So the best option for you is to buy something minimal expense, minimal coverage, and then as you grow, you can always reevaluate that and grow, but you're always going to be covered for past jobs. And we see that often. We paid a very sizable claim recently, a few $100,000 from a job that was done almost 15 years ago, that the firm had continuous coverage. So it extends for the life of your business, essentially, as long as you keep it in place.
Talk about peace of mind right there. And I'm going to give us one more. Ooh, we've got one more question from Susie. Okay, I'm going to go through this one. So does ASID have a boilerplate disclaimer to put on drawings set that is already legally checked and reviewed by Hub? We are an interior design firm and draw a strong line that we are not engineers or architects. So this also comes down to, what you are doing for your state and what you are legally able to do within your state, though, too. So ASID does not necessarily have a boilerplate piece right there for you to put on all of your drawings. That's really going to come down to your legal counsel and what scope of services you're providing within your jurisdiction, though, too. So just as a point within that, but make sure you also consult with your lawyer, especially on that one, is what that sounds like. But if we need to discuss further, feel free to reach out and we're able to, help point you in the direction of resources for you there too.
That said, just our definition of what is covered would likely extend, even if that disclaimer, if they allege something that wasn't done correctly, our policy would likely still extend, the interior design policy, as long as it wasn't true architectural work that you were doing.
You need to make sure you really know what scope you're providing and what your scope is covered within your professional services too. So Natalie, I'm going to throw you one more question as we close out, and before I give us a few, I'll bring the slides back up so everyone can get that link and also get your quote too. And I think it's the what you wish you would have known situation. So, you've had a lot of years as a business owner, you've been successful, you've had growth, you and your business partner are doing a great job. But is there something that you wish you would have known in that moment within, relation to risk and your liability, and that, you wish you would have done maybe earlier in your firm ownership?
One would just be that we should have reviewed earlier growth. And so we've kind of made us some notes, a little bit of like the same way your CPA asks you if you've had any life changes in the past year, to go, what has changed in our firm? What does that look like? And I think early on, we were just trying to get the work done, and you say yes to everything. There have been some things that we've said no to, because sometimes you can tell whether they're going to put a lot on you or if it might be a risky situation. So early on, you say yes to everything and you're running just super fast and you're not taking time to assess. So I think it's put some markers in there to assess even the boring stuff of, does our insurance match? So I think asking that same question we hear from our CPA every year of going, what has changed? What looks different? And what do we need different coverage for or to provide differently for?
And that is awesome advice. Set it on your calendar to make sure that you're working on your business and not just in client projects and client work. You need to make sure that you're managing your business too. It's not something that you always think of top of mind every day, but you got to set that time, schedule it, and make sure that you do that as well. Wonderful advice for our audience. Thank you so much. And with that, I am going to share our screen again somewhere. There we go. And hopefully it is larger for everybody today. Just in case you are having difficulty seeing that, you do have a view option. And so you should be able to toggle between me. If I'm very large right now and there's a tiny little other screen, try clicking that other screen. It should make that larger for you so you can see this as well. So as a reminder, best way and best process to get started is get a quote. And so we want you to go ahead and go to asid.org/design-business. You'll be able to click on the professional liability insurance information, and you'll see that there is a form that says get started. that's where you're able to get that quote. And so you're able to fill in that information Jeremy noted, and also do your best to estimate prior year revenue. And if you're a new business owner, really it's probably like what you anticipate having within your first year, but then what you need to do is be able to submit that so you can start that dialogue, get that quote, and really get started in this program too. And just want to take a moment to say, in addition to the professional liability insurance, be sure to check out everything else that ASID offers through Design Business. And so that's asid.org/design-business. We actually have a portfolio of options and programs for you that we're really excited to share. That includes our member health insurance, the retirement plan savings, talent recruitment, technology needs. All those are programs that we have exclusively for our ASID members. We also have the interior design contracts, and so you can actually purchase those for residential or commercial work. There's a discount for being an ASID member for that annual subscription, and there's more coming this year. There's a lot in the works, and so we're excited to roll out a lot of things in 2026 for you to help you support your design business with whatever phase or stage you are in. In addition to the portfolio from Design Business, make sure to check out everything else that ASID has to offer. And so that includes Design Careers, Design Connection, Design Finder, Design Learning, and Design Research, all by ASID, and all here to help support the interior design community and everything that you need for your business or for your career and your path and journey within the interior design profession and industry. And so that concludes our member benefit spotlight. There we go, featuring the professional liability insurance program. A little bit of a tongue twister at the end. Big thanks to our Design Business by ASID program partner, Hub International, and today's speakers, Jeremy Welsh and Natalie Biles. So thankful for your contributions, your expertise, and sharing your stories within this program, and to hopefully help you, our audience. We will have a recording from today's webinar available on the ASID YouTube channel, linked on the ASID website, and shared in Design Connection by ASID. Please be sure to fill out our attendee survey. We welcome your feedback. It helps us improve these programs and helps you get the information you need. So thank you for joining us today, and have a great day.
Thank you.